Hello teachers and students. I come to you with a very brief tutorial to talk about where we're going to be getting images to use on different projects. So if you are a teacher, you may want to look up certain images to illustrate your projects, to illustrate your homepage on Canvas. If you're one of my design students, you know that for project purposes, you'll be using a lot of stock photo sites to source copyright-free images. Now, let me talk about copyright for 1 minute. We all know copyright is important because it protects the rights of the artists, photographers, writers, etc. who created the content. That means if I went and took a photo of a sunset, you can't use that same photo of the sunset because you would be stealing the photo from me. You would need to pay me or ask my permission in writing to use that photo on a project of yours. However, if you want to take a photo of a sunset, you can go right outside and use some kind of device to take that photo, and that photo will now belong to you. What I definitely don't want to do is ever go on Google Images and take a random photo and use it on a project, because you guys don't know who that copyright belongs to, and we don't want to steal from any of the hardworking artists out there who are putting content out into the world and sharing it with us online. So there are certain websites from which we can gather certain images. This is one of them. Anytime that you are going to look up some kind of website for images, you want to make sure that it says something like this: free from copyright restrictions. If the website does not say that it's copyright free like this, then my rule of thumb is don't use it. Look for another one. So I'm going to show you guys a few different websites from which I get a lot of images to use on projects. StockSnap is one of them because it has a lot of copyright free images that artists will put on here for the purposes of sharing them for projects. Another one that I use a lot is called Pixabay, and you'll see that several of these stock photo sites have a very similar kind of layout. They'll give you a collection of different photos that artists have shared, but you can certainly look it up by keywords if you want a more specialized search. And lastly, it's going to be Pexels, which has a very large selection of photos by comparison to some of the other stock photo sites. So if I go on Pexels.com and I type in, for example, art, now that's a very generalized search. So when I type in art, I'm going to get a collection of different things such as backgrounds, painting, architecture, etc. So if I want to, I can be a little bit more specific and type up, for example, art supplies, which is what I did when I was creating this beautiful homepage design for my 2D Studio Art class. I wanted to create a banner that utilized different images of art supplies like you see here. And I sourced all of these images from Pexels.com and put them into a collage. So if I want to, I can definitely be a little bit more explicit with my search and get images of just supplies that I can use for that particular banner. Now, anytime I want to get an image, I want to get the highest quality possible image. That means it has the highest number of pixels so that regardless of how I edit the image, whether I crop it, enlarge it, etc., it's not going to start looking blurry or pixelated on me. I want it to look as high quality as possible. So let's say I want to use this particular image of the paint cups. What I'm definitely, positively not going to do is right-click on the image and save it as is, because if I did that, I would only be saving these particular small dimensions. And if I were to go and open this image on Photoshop to create a collage with it, I will definitely experience a lot of pixelation because the image size will be very small. Instead, I'm going to click on the image and I'm going to go to where it says free download. And if I click on the drop down menu next to free download, I can select different sizes that I want the image to be. So if I'm not going to do any edits to this image and I'm just going to go and put this, for example, on my homepage on Canvas, maybe I would select the size to be pretty small because I don't want a very high loading time for the website. However, if I know that I'm going to be editing this on Photoshop for a particular project, a collage or some such, then I might want to go and download the original size because I can see this has the largest amount of pixels. So I'm going to select original and select free download. Now, if I want to, I can definitely show some love for this artist and give them a thank you on any of these social media platforms. But for right now, all I want to do is go to my downloads folder, which is where all of these images are gonna go and be stored automatically. So here's the image thus far. So if I want to, I can now go and open it in Photoshop, or I can put it on Canvas directly. Likewise, you can do that on any of the other stock photo sites that I'm going to be giving you links for in the description box, so look out for those there. What I suggest is that you keep your searches pretty general. So for example, some students try to be very, very specific by looking up for images of a certain game that they like to play called Red Dead. What happens is that these artists are putting certain images and they are tagging them with certain descriptions in the title, but they don't necessarily have to do with that particular game. So there's nothing here in the search list that relates to the Red Dead Redemption game. However, there are images that artists tagged by red because the content in the images is in a red tone. So you do want to be a little bit wary of that. You have to understand that these artists are donating pictures to these sites, and it's not going to supply you with a very, very specific subject necessarily. You want to be a little bit more open. Now, you'll see that some of these images that come at the top are starred and they say sponsored. I am going to ignore those images because if I want to use those images, I have to pay for them. These sponsored images come from a website called Shutterstock. That is definitely a very good stock photo website, but you do have to pay for it. And as teachers and students, we want to keep it free whenever possible. So if it has a little star and it says sponsored, ignore it, pretend it's not there, and focus on the images below that are for free. So I was collecting images of different art supplies, so I think I'm going to go and select this image of the color pencils. Likewise, I want to make sure that I click on it so that I can get the highest possible free download size. And I'm going to select free download, and I can see from the specifications here that I'm going to download an image that's 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. So it's a very good large quality image for using on Photoshop. So I'm going to select free download and let that go directly to my downloads folder. Now what I definitely want to overlook is right here, these sponsored images by Shutterstock. Again, if I want to use those, I gotta pay for them. So for the purposes of keeping it nice and cheap, I'm gonna pretend that they don't exist. So I hope that's been helpful. If you're a teacher and you want to collect images to use on Canvas, I'm gonna be placing a series of links in the description box for different stock photo sites that I use that I know have a lot of good content and which are free for you guys to use. You're not going to be violating copyrights, etc. So you guys can create beautiful banners like this, or generally just illustrate your homepage design or your projects with these kinds of images. And if you want to learn how I created this homepage design, I recommend you check out my video on how to do so here in YouTube. And if you're a student, I'm going to supply you guys with a list as well, so that as you guys go forward and start looking up images to use on projects, you can source images responsibly and make sure you don't violate copyright. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. Bye.